We all set? All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Right at 5 o'clock.
Right at 5 o'clock. And just to be clear, this meeting typically starts at 5:30. The posted agenda was changed and
Last week, yeah.
they posted at some point last week, probably Friday, for a 5 o'clock meeting, and that's because we're going to have a representative from Weston and Sampson join us right now to talk about the water storage tank proposal for the town, specifically the siting options over at the South Peak area. So to start that off, Sam, we have a copy of the April 16th memo that you gave to us, looking at the various options for siting and all of that. We then have a proposal from you,
August 23rd.
August 23rd?
Yeah.
Dated August 23rd to move forward with the process of getting that engineered and permitted, et cetera. The board decided not to move on the August 23rd proposal only because we had no clear indication that we would get a easement across the CRVI land to access the site that you are proposing. As much as we wanted to do that, we were obviously at a
An impasse.
yeah, an impasse and a I don't know, antagonistic relationship with the owner of that.
Previous.
Right, it's the
At the
CRVI.
time, yeah.
All right.
So what happened recently, we just found out a week ago today, is Mark Bogosian here from Longfellow Builders has purchased that area and is very interested in working cooperatively with the town, which is what we were looking for all along, to do something. Just with that change in attitude, we're looking to move ahead, not necessarily waiting for everything to be signed and sealed, but ready to move, and just wanted to talk to you about that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for inviting me here to talk, I guess. How's the volume on my end? Just out of curiosity.
Fine.
Yeah, good.
Fine, great. So yeah, relating to the original April 16th siting evaluation, nothing has changed. It remains our engineering opinion that locating the tank behind the South Peak development up on Forestry Service land is the optimal spot for it to be positioned in town. Yeah, I had gotten some contact late last week from you guys about the change in ownership. That's excellent if that kind of brings the potential easement negotiation to a more positive place than it was previously. So yeah, nothing has changed in terms of citing recommendation. In terms of moving forward, the scope presented in that August 23rd proposal probably hasn't changed. That's still a best estimate of basically advancing something from where we sit right now through a public bidding process. How we had tried to break that scope out when we sent it to you is kind of in two buckets, and the first one is much smaller. I think the total value is maybe like 15,000 or something, and the intent of that was really basically getting the project from where we are right now to getting it formally in front of and on Forestry Services small projects meeting agenda. They just had the fall meeting on September 29th. So I think that ship has sailed until their next meeting, which is March 16th. So understanding that what is in front of you is a very large scope, and there's a lot of questions to answer between now and ultimately constructing a tank. We wanted to kind of give it to you in a piecemeal approach to allow you to feel like you didn't have to execute the full amount right out of the gate until we could continue to bring forestry on board, continue to talk to private developers and basically continue to work on a layout that's going to be acceptable to all parties so that there can be a project that's agreed upon and its scope and moved forward on. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. If you have any specific questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sam, you attended the meeting with the Forest Service, is that correct?
Yeah, mid-August.
And who else was present then?
We had representatives from Weston and Sampson. There were 2 people who showed up from Forestry Service. On the town side, it was Nate and Dave. And we were also joined by, I'm sorry, I'm spacing on his name. Jay from Loon was there as well.
Okay, Jay Scambio.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. And that brings me to the question, if I'm not mistaken, Loon holds the permit for the National Forest land. Loon is permitted, am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay, so we would have to, I think, get them involved if we're going to locate it up on land on which they hold the permit. Would that be an understanding of yours?
Yes, and Forestry Service at that meeting did basically say the same thing, that, you know, hey, Loon, you're here, this is within your permitted area, you have to ultimately, you know, agree with whatever is put forth. I believe, and I don't know the full text of it, but I did see a message that I think was sent from Loon to Forestry Service. I believe they generally agree with the scope of this project and the town's intent. Obviously, specifics to be determined, but I don't believe there's major opposition at this time to that being cited up there.
Okay, and we have the new owner. Mark, have you talked with Loon about this?
No, I actually have a meeting with Jay on Thursday of this week, Thursday at 2 o'clock. So when I meet with him on Thursday, I'll be bringing it up and mentioning that we're working together in conjunction to try to make this a reality and try to expedite that process. And he was extremely happy that we had purchased it and that we were going to be able to be open to working with everyone. So I think he'll be receptive to making sure he can work with, you know, Weston and Sampson and everyone to get this tank up on higher elevation.
And obviously, the goal from this board's perspective would be to have all of our ducks in a row so we can go for the March 16th and get, you know, the small projects approval by the Forest Service. Is that everybody's agreement? Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
And Sam, do you see that as a realistic time frame if we agree to, again, it looks like your proposal here is kind of in multiple steps, but if we do the preliminary design and coordination for $15,245, will that get us to that meeting? And will that March 16th date be doable?
So that is the intent of that, is basically to try to basically talk with all the parties involved and present a more detailed package to Forestry Service for their consideration. I think we, as much as they have also bought into the general intent of the project and bought into the engineering reason behind why we are seeking to put it on their land versus on the developer land, I think they're on board with that. We just had, I think, too many open-ended items or too many kind of vague items for them to feel comfortable putting it on their agenda. So not everything has to be figured out between here and March, but nailing down some more particulars, really presenting them some sort of layout and getting real buy-in from all the stakeholders that, you know, we can generally put to paper, whether that's just like a high-level memo of understanding. I think that's going to get us where we need to be.
November 4th.
And Mark, you, I believe, indicated, or the attorney indicated, that Horizon is going to be working with you to design work. Is that correct?
That's correct. So Horizons is very familiar with what's involved with the 325-gallon tank. They had already got quotes. They had already done all the road layout. One of the things that I would suggest is that Sam, you guys work with Horizons. They're going to be on retainer with us to continue to move this project forward fast. So let's take all the information that they've already come up with, meaning, where that's sited coming up. You're going to have to figure out the topography on how many, turnbacks it's going to take to get up to that elevation. And that way we make sure the easement's located in the proper location. We look at all the terrain to see if there's a better way to get up there that's going to save costs for us in the town. So a collaborative teamwork approach, I think, is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. I think that the two engineering firms work together will make life easier for everybody.
Does that work with you, Sam?
It does. And yeah, I am aware that they had laid out the initial site for it back in 2009 or whenever that was. And I think that's the general intent. Fulfill the function of that section of the parcel, slide it up the hill to provide benefit, not just to the South Peak development, but to the town as a whole. And hopefully everybody wins.
Yeah, Steve LaFrance and the team at Horizons had briefed me on a lot of the details of the water tower. So maybe the thing we could do is, as you're getting going, if there's any time you want to have a conference call and get all them involved, so they can give you all the information that they have to make it as efficient as possible to dive into things.
We'll take it.
This is great.
It is.
We've been working and hoping towards reaching this point for a long time, and it really has changed course in a matter of a week.
We're excited to be involved, and we want to work with everyone. So we're going to just keep forging forward. I'm heading up there Wednesday for the rest of the week. And I know I just saw my email right before 5. I got an email from Derek that was circulated to the town attorney with the draft of all the items we agreed to the other day to keep things moving forward.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I saw that come in the email. I haven't even had a chance to open it.
I haven't even opened it myself. I jumped on the Zoom. I'm excited to read it. I think Derek was funny. I told him one way we always try to operate is, I said, you don't need to wait for me to review it. Send it to everybody. Just send it out. We'll all start looking at it. There's minor tweak, get it accomplished together. And I think he proposed potentially meeting on Friday of this week if you guys, if we're able to make something happen.
Perfect.
That sounds good.
Sooner the better.
All right, now, Sam, going back to this contract agreement, I think we're ready to move forward with this, what I'll call step 1, the 15,245 preliminary design and coordination. The agreement you sent involves the water storage tank and design, and then the public bidding assistance, 2 other things. Do you want us to put on, like, in handwriting that we're agreeing to part 1, or do you want to send the new contract, or, I'm in December.
What you just said is fine. I mean, for simplicity's sake, execute it literally right on there,
Okay.
Approved as of this date for this amount. That's basically what we hope to do is we can get it set up through our end, and we know what the general scope is moving forward. It's basically laid out there, but you can authorize us to only expend the task 1 amount at this time. And that's kind of how we'll proceed.
Okay,
So Sam, your workload should be lessened, I would assume, to a degree, because we've got another engineering firm that's done some of this preliminary work. So it's all right if we have your fee then?
Well, kidding aside, it is an extremely valid question. And depending on how things play out, we've worked with the town for years on half a dozen projects. It's never our intent to charge money for the sake of it.
I said that facetiously, so don't take it personal.
Yeah, no, to that exact point, we generally try to put in what we think is good with the intent that we're either right on or we're handing something back. So if less effort is needed to get into a full design, we ain't gonna use it.
And there was a question that I raised with the board the other night when Mark was here. And I come from the public sector. I'm sorry to say, from the state of Massachusetts, so I'm a Masshole or former Masshole. But we, in multi-million-dollar projects, we had to go through the public bid law. And in that state anyways, it's jumping through 10 hoops before you get the first base. And I raised this question with my colleagues the other night, and I'm the newbie on the board, so I haven't had experience here. But do you think it's feasible to let the contractor do the bidding or go out and get a contractor, subject to your review and approval, rather than jump through those hoops? And sometimes, as you know, can delay time.
So New Hampshire is an entirely different animal than Mass in a good way. Mass is an utter nightmare from public bid law. It is very difficult to deal with. New Hampshire does not carry the burdens that Massachusetts does. So it's much easier. For something like this and what you're suggesting, I think that comes largely to at the town level, basically what your bylaws generally allow you to do, or what level of comfort you have if you're talking about potentially sole sourcing a project, or doing some sort of advanced process to vet a contractor. There are ways to do that. In New Hampshire, unlike in Mass, you can basically write a contract generally around one supplier. So you can also do that. You can do a public bidding process, but put your thumb on the scale to get the product that you think is in the town's best interest. So there are a couple ways to go around that. Somewhat it comes down to just your comfort level, or how you think it's in the town's best interest to proceed.
And again, I mean, we can talk amongst ourselves and, decide which way we want based on advice from you, and after you talking with Mark and his team. Again, I just throw up the concept because I'm new at it, like I said, and having gone through the public bid process for better than 20 years. It was crazy.
Yep, much better up here.
That's why I moved to New Hampshire.
Yeah, we can help with the companies that we'll be working with, putting in road infrastructure, the quote we've already received for the 325 gallon tank. So that way, all that information and the resources that we're working with can be there to help. So when we come into, it could be working as a collaborative team to decide the one or two people that we're bidding things out with, then the town can add those people to their bid list to make sure
Great.
person to do it all.
Sounds like a very collaborative plan. I like it.
Good.
Yeah.
Right.
Any other questions from the
No,
board?
do you want me to make a motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we enter into the agreement for engineering services with Weston and Sampson for the preliminary design and coordination, $15,245. And I will authorize, or add that we authorize OJ to sign in place of the town manager.
I'll second that, subject to an amendment.
Okay. What's that?
I'll second that, subject to an amendment.
What amendment?
The amendment would be not, change the language, not to exceed 15,000, or the number that you
I'll
gave.
agree with that.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I was writing.
Let's keep it official.
All right, Sam, you're gonna get a contract back signed by me, written notes at the bottom, initialed by me. You do the
Works for
same,
us.
you do the same, and we'll have a fully signed contract.
Scan this in and send it to you in the morning.
That sounds great. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
All
much.
right, thanks for joining us, Sam.
Thank you, Sam.
And Mark, thank you for coming.
And Mark, is there anything else that you wanted to talk to the board about?
No, I think that if the board is available on Friday, I know Derek said he'd make himself available, our attorney. And our thought was to be able to circulate that draft back and forth throughout the next few days. So by the time we meet on Friday, hopefully we're ready to keep things moving to the next steps to, each week
I
not
would
lose a
be
week.
able to zoom in, but I'll be out of town.
Okay,
What time Friday are you looking for, Mark?
I'm flexible on Friday. What time works best for you guys?
I'm just going out to my sister. She's having a surgery, so.
What time, OJ?
morning is better for me.
9 o'clock?
9 o'clock works.
You will- Okay.
All right,
Tammy,
and do you want to do that just by Zoom, Mark?
I'm gonna be in Lincoln, so I have no problem to just come down to town hall. It's up to you guys.
You're a live target if you're sitting in front of us, so.
Oh, we can Zoom, so We
We'll-
do both, so.
Yeah,
Right, but-
if you zoom
But
so I
if
can
he's gonna
zoom
be
in.
here, I'll be here.
I'll be here.
Okay, so Jack and I will be here in this room. So you're welcome to join us in person, and Jeremy will join us by Zoom.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right,
Um,
now,
I'll have Jane post the meeting.
Thank you. Jim.
I'm just
Actually-
thinking, we're negotiating a contract. If we,
is there any chance,
we'd still have to do it in public if we sign or agree
Right,
to
but we still have
it.
to open in public and then go into non-public, so it has to be posted, all that stuff.
Right, it
Discussion.
definitely has to be posted.
could you guys do 10:30?
I can do 10:30,
Yep,
yeah,
That would be great for me. I don't have to move all my meetings first thing in the morning.
oh, absolutely.
yeah, I'm flexible, so 10:30 is fine.
Yep.
Yeah, perfect. So that'll be great. And I'll be there in person, and then we can obviously have the Zoom open, which is convenient as well.
Okay,
Try to keep moving this forward, so that way, the goal would be to have that draft circulated throughout the next few days. So if there's anything the attorneys need to, go back and forth to make sure they have everything in there properly, we'll be in good shape.
Is there anybody that needs to be invited, like Sam or anybody?
For that contract,
No.
no. Peter Valiant,
Peter
Is it
Mallia.
for the easement?
yeah.
Yeah, Sam's on.
No, it's
still on
just for the
Zoom.
general, the kind of the global agreement
Oh,
between
okay.
Mark and
Right.
us.
Okay.
But
Not,
you could
not-
invite specifically Peter, Brian,
and Derek.
and Derek, in case any of the attorneys don't want to travel, they can
Okay.
zoom in.
Yeah, I don't see any need for the attorneys to be here in person.
Yeah, I'm happy to have Derek, I'm happy to have him Zoom in opposed to driving up.
I was gonna say, we're all paying for them, so
So yeah, we'll
let's.
save on the mileage anyway.
So
I think-
yeah, no, that's great. And the goal is, what I Derek to do is to try to go through and get it all. There's nothing in there that wasn't discussed the other day. So now, in theory, we're all on the same page. We just need the attorneys to put everything down properly, and so we can just look at everything and get it signed on Friday.
Hi, Roger.
That sounds good. That sounds good. All right, then we'll post a meeting, public meeting for 10:30 in the morning on Friday right here and by Zoom.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing there. In the meantime, if there's any questions, we could always do a Zoom meeting before Friday. So if you think that it makes sense for us to, if you have any other meetings that you're doing this week anyways, I can, at that point, everyone's had a chance to review everything that's been being circulated. If we want a meeting before a Friday meeting.
Perfect.
Okay, as of now, we don't have any other meetings posted.
That
And
could
we do have to
change.
do 24-hour notice, but that could change. Or if we all see that we need something, we can just post it and call us a meeting, but otherwise 10:30 on Friday morning.
Excellent. Well, thank you, guys. I'm gonna sign off the meeting unless there's any other questions in regards to South Peak or anything that we could help with.
Oh, I can't believe you don't want to stay and watch.
This is my nights. I'm heading home to keep the wife and kids happy. So
All
this
right,
is
Okay.
good.
good for
That's
you.
important.
All right, thanks, Mark, and thank you, Sam, and
Thank you.
you'll get this email to you tomorrow.
Yes.
Look forward to working with you, Sam. And thank
Yeah,
you.
you as well, Mark. Take care,
Thank you
guys.
so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That was good.
yeah.
Because it's not a new reading.
And Nate, I see that you've just joined us by Zoom here. We were looking at that agreement for the engineering services with Weston and Sampson, and we just
Yep.
voted to move ahead with that first step, which they call, get back in front of me here. Preliminary design and coordination, $15,245. And
Okay.
that scope of work for that portion of the contract should allow us to get to the March meeting of the Forest Service for consideration in their small projects meeting.
Yes.
And they're gonna work with Horizon Snake, who has
Yeah.
been retained by the new owner. Longfellow.
Okay.
So just to let you know that we signed that contract, and of course, either Horizons or Weston and Sampson may be contacting you for input on whatever's needed to bring before the Forest Service.
Okay. Yep. Whatever I can do to help. Sorry, I tuned in late. I had a bunch of stuff going on, so.
No problem.
No, it's all good.
It was more informational for you than anything. You know, we had the contract, we just wanted to see what the timeline is and make sure we're all in agreement with the process, the cooperation between the town and our engineering firm, and then the new owner and his engineering firm, which is gonna continue to be Horizons.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, well, thanks, Nate.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Nate.
Oh,
Nate.
did you have anything else for us before you leave?
The only thing I had was I talked to GMI Paving last week, and their schedule was for Lower Black Mountain Road to be ground up and paved Thursday and Friday of this week. That may change due to the weather, so I'll have to let Jane know and put it on the website. But that was their schedule last week.
How are we on? Nate, how are we on the project across the street here?
West Street.
West Street.
West.
So West Street, they are finishing up water service connections and sewer service extensions from the ditch over to the other side of the street. They're just about done. Their plan was to start boxing out by Tuesday, but I think that'll be near the end of the week. So they're almost done, and they're about ready to put everybody on the new water main. And I think that'll be in the next 2 days. And then they'll start boxing out the road. So they're gonna tear out 2 feet of the gravel from the road and replace it with selects. And that'll be another week or so. And then we'll move towards getting everything fine graded and ready for pavement.
Is it anticipated to pave it before winter sets in?
Yes, they are on schedule, and it looks like they will be meeting their substantial completion, which I think is mid-November.
Right, thank you.
And then is the road going into the solid waste facility gonna be paved this fall?
So when I talked to GMI last week, what their plan was to go up to Lower Black Mountain Road and grind, grade, and pave Thursday and Friday of this week. And then move the road reclaimer down to the transfer station and do that roadway work on Monday. But that may all change tomorrow because of the rain. So I don't know. That was what I was told last week, and I'll keep Jane informed and everyone informed as soon as I get any notification.
Okay, but either way, you see that, you know, once the weather clears up and they reschedule things, that Black Mountain Road will be done, and then right afterwards, they'll move to the solid waste facility?
That is correct.
Perfect.
Great.
That's good to know. All right, well, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the update, and
Yep.
then you'll be hearing from Weston and Sampson on the water tank issue.
Okay.
Thanks, Nate.
Thanks, Nate.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. I'm gonna get the agenda for tonight. All right, we don't have minutes from last week.
No, we'll have, Jane was out today. She wasn't feeling well, so she'll have those next week.
All right. You all see that we got that memo from Peter Mallier regarding the South Peak attorney's proposal. I haven't even read it. Like he said, it just came in
Yeah. I
a
did
few
not
minutes
read it.
ago.
Just saved it here, so I can go over it.
Okay. As part of that discussion we had at the last meeting regarding the stormwater ordinance, in the alteration of terrain permit.
Mhm.
I talked to Ray about that over the weekend, and I said I'd update the rest of the board
Right.
at this meeting. He said that the stormwater management ordinance of the town and the alteration of terrain permit from the state are not totally redundant, but they do try to achieve the same goal of the net zero change in runoff from pre-development to post-development.
Mhm.
One thing about the alteration of terrain is that it's limited on its enforcement. In other words, if we just went with an alteration of terrain and said that if you have that, you don't need the stormwater management part of it, that the town is very limited in what it can do if there is, well, first of all, in even inspecting it, but second of all, if there's issues with it. And he also said that in general, the state and local, the two different permits, the engineers work together to achieve both of them at once. He's never seen it as a serial process where you get the alteration of terrain. Then you come to the town and say, okay, what do we need for stormwater management? That the engineers look at both of those and do it together at the same time with input from Ray. And he said typically that does not slow down the process. But it's done in a collaborative way. And then he pointed out things like with the medical center down here, that there was an approval or application to the alteration of terrain. And in looking at it, they didn't pick up on the fact that the water coming in off the driveway or the parking lot from the hobo was not accounted for in the alteration of terrain permit. They overlooked that water was draining onto the medical property. So when they did all the calculations, all of that water was not included. And Ray found that and pointed it out, and they said, oh yeah, it was like no objection. And I don't want to say it slowed it down, but it made them aware of something that was not included the first time through. So yes, they had to do it a second time through, but he wouldn't label that or call that a slowdown. It was a miscalculation or an error that was pointed out by having the dual process. So his recommendation is to have developers go through both processes. The other thing he pointed out is that the issues with stormwater management ordinance, some of the difficulties in getting plans for that have been with these small lots on hillside of single-family homes. They don't need an alteration of terrain permit. So for all of these lots that whoever wants to develop, they're not going to go through the alteration of terrain permit. So we're not even discussing all of those individual lots. We're thinking the next, or Ray and I in discussing, we're thinking the next thing that the developer, the new owner is going to need for alteration of terrain permits is going to be the new water tank, which will be the driver behind that anyway. And then when they go to like cut new roads and put in the next phase of the development, those roads and lot development will need an alteration of terrain permit. But again, each one of the individual lots, as the houses get built on them, don't need that. But they do need the stormwater management.
It's actually gonna make it easier when he moves forward that there's a track showing that the town has stuck behind their original AOT during the development of phase 1 and phase 2, so they don't really need to recalculate phase 1 and phase 2 because it's been enforced.
Gotcha.
So it should be a smoother process for the next phase, I would think.
And who actually reviews the documents and issues the permit?
The state does the alteration of terrain permit.
Yeah.
And then the town, basically Ray, we contract Ray to review. I mean, it's whoever the applicant is hires their own engineer
Right.
to do all the calculations, and basically they have to prove that the water running off the site today won't change after whatever roads and
net zero.
Yeah, a net zero change.
So,
But Ray reviews that, and basically the developer pays for Ray. Technically, we pay him, but we get reimbursed by the developer, so
by
there's,
the escrow.
there's no cost for the town, no net cost.
Right, and the state actually issues the permit.
And the state issues the alteration of terrain, and
Yeah.
we issue the land use permit, which is conditioned on the stormwater
Conditioned,
management
yeah.
ordinance. So I just wanted to update you on that conversation. I had more questions than answers coming out of the discussion the other day, and that's why I wanted to call Ray.
Good synopsis.
So I
Thank you.
think,
Good,
so,
thank you for that.
all right. We also had one other thing that we talked about on our meeting. We had a meeting Friday? It was Friday last week. And the reason, just for the public, the reason for that meeting we had Friday is that there is a new owner of the South Peak Resort. CRVI and FC Loon, who we are currently
Thursday.
in dual Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Thursday
Thursday,
meeting,
yeah.
sorry. We have a dual lawsuit with those entities. CRVI is suing the town is countersuing CRVI and FC Loon, which bought a whole bunch of lots in a bulk sale from CRVI and is working with them. We sued them. CRVI and FC Loon have sold all of their land holdings up at South Peak to one of the, happens to be a homeowner up there, but he's also a major developer down in Massachusetts, I guess specifically mostly on the Cape. Mark Bogosian, I don't know what house he owns, but it's on Crooked Mountain or Hemlock?
Corner of Hemlock and Crooked.
Okay, at the corner of those two roads up there.
I think it's a Crooked Mountain address.
Okay.
And he's actually building a couple of homes up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, and he's
Long
building,
Meadows,
right,
yeah.
he's building a couple of homes, other homes up there in that development. Anyway, he has purchased the whole development. We had a meeting with him last Thursday, and he is ready to solve all of the issues that we had with South Peak as far as returning the high pressure zone to the way it was designed, as far as the limits of the high pressure zone. That's been a problem now for years, that it wasn't set up as designed, and that's what has caused the town to have such limited use of the Forest Ridge tank. That is being solved or is solved.
It's under pressure.
It's, yeah, so what's the high pressure zone right now is back to the way it was designed
Yes,
and
designed.
approved in 2006 or 7, whenever that approval came. And then the tank, he was ready to move forward with the tank that was approved back in 2007, but in discussions with us Thursday, is willing to work with the town because Weston and Sampson did a study for us back in April and determined that the town would benefit from a tank that's bigger and slightly uphill from the tank that was approved and is required at South Peak. And he's willing to work with us in a joint venture where we build a bigger tank, higher elevation, more expensive. Obviously, it's almost twice the size. But we would work in paying for that together. And it would be,
Yeah, it's gonna benefit two persons.
right. By putting the tank at the elevation that Weston and Sampson scoped out and designed, is going to, with a pressure reducing valve, is going to be a backup for the Loon Village zone. And it will be a backup for the main pressure zone. So that in any major water flow event, like a major fire, in either of those two zones, this new tank that we'll build together will help feed whichever zone there's a major water usage in as backup. So this really solves a huge water, firefighting water supply issue in both of those zones. And as part of that, the north end of Route 3, up where Ron and I live,
Yeah.
will benefit from that because the forest ridge tank won't be drained down as quickly. And like, let's say there's a downtown fire using the main pressure zone. Our end of town won't lose the water volume or pressure as rapidly if that new south tank is also feeding into,
Yeah, with PRV.
right? Is that fair analysis of?
And
of that?
also you'll now have a storage tank on the side of Loon, which you don't have now because everything has to cross the river.
And didn't you indicate in an email today there'd be a cistern, 10,000 gallon cistern?
Well, that was talked about until the tank is built.
Until the tank is built.
And those were the two ideas I came
Yeah.
up with. You know, one could be done fairly quickly and service what's already built. And then the other part of that was the other part of Crooked Mountain Road. There is no structures on yet. Could come at a later date.
And that would be at the expense of the developer, correct?
I believe that's what was said.
That is what we talked about.
As an interim method.
He is working with Steve LaFrance. They have some ideas about pump size and some stuff that may be more beneficial than just putting a cistern in.
Yep.
So, but they're still working on that.
So anyway, we're in discussions with them. The contract that we just talked about was prepared by the new owner's attorney as a result of the conversation that we had. Most of that meeting was in non-public. It was his attorney with him, and then our attorney, the town's attorney, Peter Mallier, with the board. And we're gonna, like he said, review that and hopefully come to an agreement this Friday, which would be then a public document. But as you know, Ron pointed out, it's very cooperative, and he's willing to work with the town, and we're willing to work with him. Like what Ron said, you know, if he wants to build, he's gonna slow down his, or we're gonna slow down his development abilities, because he's ready to go to build that smaller tank right now. But he's willing to wait for that so that we get a better product that benefits the town. In exchange for that, we may do what Ron talked about, is allow a cistern to be put in up there, which in the scope of things is fairly small money, as a temporary source of firefighting water until the tank is built, but that would allow him to build more houses in that high pressure zone. So, you know, we're willing to work, you know, to benefit him, and he's willing to work to benefit us. And this is a whole new,
It's very positive.
positive, refreshing attitude to have with the developer. So we're excited.
And I think there was a willingness on the developer's part to put up a bond
Yes,
to guarantee that the work would be done.
yes. We also, at that meeting, signed an employment agreement with a new town manager, which was a long process, but we are extremely happy. And she could not be here tonight because she's Karina Park is the town administrator in the town of Camden. And she's gonna be starting here in December 13th, and will become our town manager. She was ready to join us last week at our Monday meeting, but there was still a few things that had to be done. This Monday, tonight, she's at her Board of
Town,
Selectmen's meeting. They meet every other Monday. So she was not able to be here, and she's gonna continue in her position there until December 13th, unless they hire someone and get them trained before that. So we're, we're excited. She is very experienced, very talented, very enthusiastic, and we're excited to have her join us. And we also respect the fact that she's dedicated to the town that she's been working for, and is gonna finish out
Her
her
contract.
contract with them, and then be ready to move up here. Well,
Absolutely.
move her job up here.
Yeah.
We will be introducing her in person at a future meeting that hasn't been set. She will be coming in to meet the staff. She hasn't even met the staff yet.
She's been talking with Jane.
She's been talking
yeah.
with Jane on the
Jane's been
phone and
shipping her some
email,
materials. and-
et cetera,
yeah.
but she's not been up. This came about on Thursday. So that's where we stand with that. I have one non-public personnel issue discussion with a town employee that
I have a
I had-
personnel issue as well.
I had and want to bring you,
Okay.
update you guys on that. So with that, do you have anything you want to bring up
No.
in public?
Yes, actually, the ARPA fund thing. We got this email from Jane. That I know we didn't vote to
Oh,
the ARPA funds, and I mean, we've got an opinion from one attorney at NHMA that says, no, you don't have to. But every single thing that I've read about the ARPA funds that comes from the state, everything, it's when you voted to, and with your vote to accept, every single one. I feel like we're gonna get blindsided by something if we don't just formally accept it.
we did formally accept it. We didn't have, and we did it in public, and we had public participation. We just didn't post it as an official hearing.
Gotcha.
So we did accept it. But what they're saying is, and thank you for bringing
This
this
is
up.
that second
We-
round, right?
We recommend that any municipality, it should be in your green folder.
Yeah.
Jane,
If she doesn't have a green folder, yours was paper clipped together and left on the desk with your agenda, left on the table with your agenda. It's in there.
any municipality that only accepted the first tranche of funds under
Mhm.
RSA 3195B,
Rather
rather
than
than the entire amount, hold a new hearing and amend the vote of the governing body to accept the total grant amount for
See,
both
Hold
tranches.
a new hearing. They're, maybe, I don't know. Everything that I've read and seen and the emails, and if you go on and you read through the stuff at the NMAJ,
This-
it's too much money to not.
I agree, that there's no reason we only accepted the first tranche.
Mhm.
This is saying that jeopardizing it. So we have to redo it.
So let's hold the hearing,
Post
let's do
public
it. Who
hearing,
cares if it's
Post a
overkill?
public hearing,
Yeah,
accept both tranches of it,
yep, and get it done.
even though we've only received one tranche and we won't accept get the new one until springtime
Right,
sometime, I
right.
forget what the date is. Because they're one grant, not two separate grants.
Yeah.
So how about if we put this on the agenda,
What do you need for,
we need to post it in the paper and on the
right, so 2 weeks,
website and all of that.
2 weeks or 3?
I assume she can do it post it,
I think she can do it 2 weeks, and do it on November 8th.
sure.
Public hearing, accept ARPA funds. And I will add that to the email, just composing an email to Jane for the important stuff.
Okay, so November 8th. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Jack, did you have anything?
Yeah, a couple of things. Number one, should we notify the chief to send out, Chief Morris to send out that these 603 area code has to be utilized now when you're dialing a local number?
No, I won't forget, bother him to do that. It's been all over the news, it's been in the paper.
All
it's-
right, well, somebody called me and said I couldn't reach you. I said, well, did you dial 603?
No.
And they said, no. So I'm just, that's why I'm bringing it up. All right,
No, it's, maybe we'll have Jane added to the town Facebook page, maybe.
yeah, maybe put it on there.
And I'll get a hold of Kara downstairs and have her put it on the police Facebook page, but
And the
yeah,
other
that's
thing,
not a bad idea.
the other thing that I had, OJ, I was contacted by a couple individuals in regards to mask mandate in town. I know, Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, one of them was a parent of a student. The school has a mask mandate for students.
Yes,
And they said, well, I'm going into Price Chopper, I'm going into restaurants, I'm seeing people not that I even recognized, so that means I assume they're not locals, but that aren't wearing masks. And, we're telling our kids to wear masks. Should we be setting an example for that? And somebody, this woman has 2 children in the school system. Then I was contacted by 2 people, younger than I, but close to myself in age, that have immune, compromised systems. And, they said, should we be doing something on the town level? And I said, let's hear from the people. Let's put it on the agenda, maybe make it an issue and get some feedback. We are the live free or die state. I don't want to see people die because of a decision that I do or don't make. My ultimate issue would be safety for all. So I'm bringing it out. I don't know if anybody's got comments or what have you.
I would like to comment.
Go ahead, Ivan.
Okay. It has been reported in the newspaper, in the media, that there is an uptake in Grafton County of cases. And we need to be vigilant in a town that receives out-of-state and out-of-town visitors. Now, I know some of the restaurants have been observing some form of safety precaution, but in the past few weeks, I've noticed that they've eased back on some of the safety precautions. And although everybody seems to think that this pandemic is winding down, that is not true. Now, my connection with EMS and the ambulance service, we hear about many cases that are coming through. And it is my belief, and I hate to put it on the select board, but it is my belief that the select board and the town administration have an obligation to protect our local citizens and taxpayers. Now, if this means to throw up some sort of a barrier against people coming in from out of area who are either anti-vax or anti-mask, so be it. They need to conform with our safety requirements. And I know in the past, it was mandated so that if you went into a restaurant, you went in wearing a mask until you actually sat down to have your meal. And I thought that that was a very reasonable way to administer it. Even the grocery stores like Price Chopper, you know that there was an incident at Wayne's Market not too long ago, I believe last week. This thing is still around. And if we don't provide any sort of protection, we are putting our citizens and taxpayers at risk. So it is my hope that the select board would strongly reconsider putting back mask mandates for the town of Lincoln. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim, you got something?
Yeah, no,
If you do bring back that mask mandate, what can be done with the people that absolutely refuse to put a mask on? Can you call the cops and have them either removed from the building? Or just say,
it was deemed
I'll wash my
unenforceable.
hands, what are you gonna do with the people that refuse to put a mask on?
And that's just
If
the
there's a mask
issue. That's why
mandate in
we
this
didn't,
town,
that's why the town of Lincoln never did have a mask
yeah, first of
mandate.
all, we can't bring back our mask mandate because we never had one.
The state of New Hampshire had a mask
Correct.
mandate. The town of Lincoln did not. And
Alright,
the
so-
only reason I believe that we did not, because I really think that the 3 selectmen at the time would have voted it in, is because it's not enforceable. it's an enforcement nightmare, and it's not an arrestable offense. It's not a chargeable offense. It's the police go and say, can you please put it on? If they absolutely refuse, you cannot cuff them and stop them for it. So it's not an enforceable offense.
So
It's,
why even talk about?
you
mask
can't
mandate?
enforce it.
Can't enforce it.
if the state enacts of the mask mandate, then there are repercussions, but it's still not anything. I don't even think they were giving fines for it. It was not. The town of Plymouth had a mask mandate. They had to increase their, what do you say? They increased their officers by 9 just to patrol Main Street and campus to keep masks on people. And if there was, and if somebody absolutely flat out refused walking down Main Street to have a mask on, they couldn't make them put it on. They could remove them from a store if the people said you have to wear a mask in here, but they couldn't. There was nothing they could do. It's just, it's not enforceable, which is unfortunate because I think that masks, when you're in, close proximity like that, you should have one on. The school, one of the biggest reasons, I shouldn't say the biggest, but one of the biggest reasons with the school is when you've got all these kids in a classroom and little Johnny turns out to be COVID positive, if they're not masked, the whole classroom goes home for 10 days. If they're masked, then it's just little Johnny that goes home. So the reason why they're masking in school is to keep kids in school, which is absolutely awesome.
And one thing too, Jim, again, it seems as though some businesses can enforce that policy themselves, basically stating what Tammy said, you have a mask on till you sit down and start eating. I know there was a federal executive order that says anybody on national forest land, and unless they can social distance, should have a mask on. And Loon has that in place because they're national forest land. When you come down to Loon's property that they own, they're mandating masks in the lift lines, in the food lodges there, unless, you can social distance safely, i.e. 6 feet or beyond. Even though it's recommended, many people are gonna say, screw you, I'm not gonna do it. I mean, that's the bottom line, we know it. And like you say, it's not enforceable. We're not gonna go hire the mask cop. But, I was at the Fenway Park, unfortunately, last week when the Red Sox lost, and my wife and I were the only ones wearing masks. I mean, literally, we were the only one. We looked around, where the hell were the masks? I mean, so people aren't doing it, even when they should be doing it. But, it's a safety. Should we pass a mandate and leave it up to the local businesses? Or should we pass something that says, okay, you're required to wear a mask unless you can safely social distance? And then there's no teeth in an enforcement. So I don't know.
I do realize it is not enforceable. And I do realize that it would not be 100% compliant. But I think what it would do, it would encourage the individual businesses to enforce their own mask mandates. If they see that the town is doing it, they may take it on themselves to at least put a sign on the door, masks required, rather than put a sign on the door, we encourage you to wear masks. It's the difference between the wording. And I think that that would encourage some people who are sort of on the borderline to say, oh, okay, if they want us to wear masks, we'll wear masks. But you're not going to get 100% compliance. But if you get 75% compliance, when the people walk in not wearing masks and everybody else is wearing masks, maybe they'll feel a little stupid. But it's got to come from the town. You're not going to get it from the state. Our governor was very proactive at the very beginning of the pandemic. We used to watch his comments on WMUR every day. He has disappeared into the wilderness. So I don't even know if the governor and the people at the state level really care about what's going on. We live free or die. We want to live free. We don't want to die. And there are a lot of at-risk people in this town. And you have to take extra precaution for the residents and the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thanks, Ivan.
Mm.
Roger?
I wear mine when I go out of town. Back, last week with somebody, went in, the lady, I must have been Walmart, she said, thank you for wearing your mask. You know, and, today down in Plymouth, in the market basket, I think I was the only one in there with the mask. But
I think I was the other day too.
hey, I look it out for Roger, I don't give a shit about the next guy.
There you go, there you go.
No, I mean, hey,
Yeah.
if they, if they feel comfortable, okay, I don't feel comfortable yet, I'm 84 years old, I don't want to croak yet.
Not ready.
Bless you.
Any comments? Do you want to take this up at a future meeting?
Well, it wasn't on the agenda tonight. Why don't we put it on the agenda for next week and maybe we'll get, other townspeople to weigh in. And in the interim, we can indicate that we encourage masks without a mandate at this point in time. If we're not ready, if you're not ready to vote for an actual mask mandate. But, at least encourage businesses to require people upon entryway until they're seated in the dining areas and in the shopping plazas. Because we will shortly be getting influx from out of staters. And,
We've had an influx all summer.
yeah, well, that's true. Right now, we're in kind of a slow season, as you know, and I know. But pretty soon we'll be getting the skiers and, snowboarders and what have you. And who knows what they bring with it.
I'd be willing to put it on a future agenda. I think Ivan's right that you're not gonna, there's people who aren't gonna wear masks no matter what the law, rules, ordinances are.
I am-
If it's stated that you have to
Right.
wear a mask, anywhere that says you have to wear a mask, I wear a mask. In that stronger wording helps do that. But I also know that this is just a magnet for opposition and finger pointing, and it's
Go ahead, make me. That's what it's gonna bring out.
it's
yeah.
it's gonna bring out people who will, even with just seeing a sign, want to go into that business and cause trouble and object and mouth off, and I think it's gonna bring a lot of negativity. I think it's become a political thing rather than
Polarized. It's
an
polarized.
I would
information.
like to, will you let me check with our police chief and see if he's available next Monday, and if he is, then I'll put it on Monday's agenda. If not, I will put it on the next available agenda that he can attend the meeting for.
Who's that?
Chad?
Our police
Chad,
chief,
Chad.
yeah.
Police chief, yeah. I will not be at the next meeting, but I'm happy
Who
if you
said you could have
wanna, bring it up at the next meeting, that's fine.
Well, wait till you're here.
We can do it the following week, I will be here.
So you're not here
Eight.
November 1st?
Correct, I'll be here, is it the 8th is the next
The
meeting, right?
8th,
I'll be here
okay.
November 8th.
Thank you for listening. I
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Ivan.
Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you. Hey, Ivan, because you have, an association with the AMS, if you, prior to the meeting of November 8th, could get us some statistics on what's happening in Grafton County and maybe Lincoln specifically, that might help people understand what we're trying to do a little bit better.
I will certainly work on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Be safe, everybody.
You too.
Wear a mask.
Did you have anything else you wanted to bring up?
No, sir.
All right, I'll open it for public participation. Roger.
Mrs. Ham,
Yes, sir.
did you find anything about the O'Brien Avenue? We talked about that last week. About the sign, the parking.
Yes, Nate is going to order a no parking sign and put, or I shouldn't say and put, possibly yellow because a yellow stripe or line or something is no parking, but he wasn't sure, he was gonna take a look at it. He's definitely gonna put something there that says no parking.
Did you talk to the chief of police about it?
I talked to Public Works, Nate, to sign it, where so no parking, so they wouldn't park in that right away.
Because I remember when I was talking about that, I talked about having a little discussion with the officer that came there, and you was gonna follow up on that with the chief, I thought.
I did not do that. But I
Because if
will.
they wanted,
You want my agenda? I'm gonna put this on here.
Yeah, that's yours. My agenda.
because I'd be willing
I
to sit.
apologize, because you're right, now that you say that, I was going to and I didn't, and I apologize for that.
Oh, when I asked the chief, the officer that came there, he said, what's your problem? I said, they got the road blocked up there, the kids can't go through the path. And he says, I'm from North Woodstock, I don't know the laws in Lincoln. So I said, well, I'll take care of it myself. Walked off, he jumped out of the cruiser like he's gonna kick my ass. And in the meantime, I kept on just doing my work. So my wife see there was something happening, so she come out, and he told her to call Ron Beard, the chief, he knows about that. So I see the chief about it, and he said he was gonna discuss it with the officer. I haven't heard nothing since then. And I'd be willing to sit with the chief, with the officer, with my wife, in a select board if you wanted to hear. 'Cause the chief of police, he said, my officer, I don't think you believe you do this. I said, well, he did it, or he said he shouldn't have. Well, when you call for an officer, you get, he said, he recommended the fire chief, like, I'm in the wrong school.
Want to talk to Chad about that?
I definitely will, and I apologize for not doing so. I did talk to him about O'Brien Avenue, well, I talked to Nate about O'Brien Avenue and putting up some no parking or something. He said he's got a sign order that needs to go in, and he was gonna get a no parking sign, and he did say something about a yellow line for no parking, because you can't park on a yellow line or something.
Her driveway is right off, she's got
Sure.
probably 20 feet between side of her driveway,
Uh-huh.
which is the walk path. You just go 6 cars, they park
Gotcha.
it double all the way.
Gotcha, okay. He knew what I was talking about when I mentioned it, so, yeah, he's gonna work on that.
I just thought.
I will definitely follow up with
In
him
a
with
couple
that
of
too.
months, I thought something would be happening by then. And on O'Brien Avenue, when they had those new lots developing out in the field out there, why do they, read in the ordinance they had there, that 2 of the lots border O'Brien Avenue, none of them lots border the O'Brien Avenue.
No, they're on, is it Luann
They're on Luann Lane, but
Yeah.
they had the address of O'Brien Avenue, I think that should be changed.
Have to work with Casey Gordon at 911 on that.
To change the actual address?
Because more
Are
people,
they, the 911 address is O'Brien Avenue on those?
in the state.
yeah, because Rompuys address is O'Brien Avenue,
Romfrey's is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so there's.
I think there was an issue because Luann Lane technically dead ends, the public, the town road of Luann Lane dead ends down at that corner.
Right,
There is a continuation of that way across what was Rompuys land and loops up to Miles's land. But that's not a town road or town way, and I
No,
don't,
it's a garden lot where they walk, it's a path with a
It's a
garden
path,
lot. It's only 10 foot.
right,
And it ain't a road because it's in behind the garden lots.
right,
this
So
is
I don't know
Lu-
if-
well, I see, yeah, right
I don't
there.
know, right,
You
but
know what's funny is, look at this. You see, it says the Luann Lane across there. But then when you get bigger,
over there it says O'Brien,
O'Brien Ave. And Luann Lane here, but did you see if you go smaller, watch? There's Luann Lane and O'Brien Avenue
O'Brien
there.
Ave, yeah,
Isn't
the
that weird?
town
Yeah.
map is showing O'Brien Ave is going down
Yeah.
by Miles's house.
They just did that new subdivision there, so maybe that can get straightened out, right?
Well, they got a sign there now, a little red sign on the tree.
But this one, okay, that has an address of Luann Lane. That has a, but see that
Okay,
whole
what
piece.
does garden lot 1 and 2 have?
Where are you up here?
Yeah, right there.
Oh, there we go. O'Brien Avenue. And O'Brien,
Yeah, but Miles didn't sell them two lots.
It's Maple. Maple, and this has all been merged, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
No, about every other day, every time a new driver gets on that FedEx truck,
But look at this.
somebody's gonna come down, send a tractor trailer. They don't know what the hell they're gonna do then, but they get
See
down,
this?
they get excited at that.
This goes with that whole lot.
Right, I know,
So
the
it's
planning
only
board,
this
the
one.
planning board just looked at that whole, they're looking at changing lot lines and subdividing land
Gotcha.
there and changing that all around.
Gotcha.
But don't you think them lots ought to be Luann Lane instead of O'Brien? Is it?
Well, under the new plan, that lane, that road isn't gonna loop all the way through like it does now. So what I don't think you can have is two roads named the same that don't connect.
Yeah,
You have Luann Lane over here and Luann Lane over here, and
they don't.
you can't get through. I don't think that E11, E911 allows that, is that,
I don't think so.
yeah,
I can't imagine.
so
Those two are probably gonna have to get changed.
then again, they're undeveloped.
Right.
They're
Until someone actually pulls a permit on it.
garden lots. I mean, I don't know what the E91 emergency would be.
Interesting.
Well, I know the guy that runs the ambulance service there,
Dave,
he come down one day, the little girl out there was choking, and she come down in there, how do you get out there? You gotta go up the other way. Well, the emergency vehicles don't know it, I put some in a hot seat, Charles.
so that apartment, the apartment in
On-
Humphreys old
on
building
Humphreys old land.
has O'Brien Avenue, but now the boulders are there, so the only way to access that apartment is Phil Luann Lane, and that's what Roger's mentioning is the address for that building needs to change to Luann Lane, because that's the only access to it. That's why I was saying.
Let's see, that would be important because
that
it's a
needs to be
developed
brought up
house
to-
with an address that you can't access. Is that still Luann Lane?
Where?
25?
That's O'Brien.
That's the one that would be an
So
issue.
that one needs to go to
Yeah, I mean,
Casey
I mean,
Gordon.
But if they put 3 or 4 houses up there, and, because he had 2 lots are gonna be on O'Brien Avenue, well, there's no lot, because Jesus Christ. Guy that,
Tom?
no, the guy who bought land, I can't think of his name. Miles Moran, he owns that first guard lot,
Right,
second guard lot,
Right.
you know, okay? Then the next lot is Ledges, okay, which hasn't been sold yet, he still owns that. Okay, then Rompley had the rest of them, then it goes over across the street, back of the other house, and you got some more out there. Miles Moran bought a lot next to his house, so that moves the fence over another 10 or 15 feet. So there's no way in hell they're gonna have to have a big rig to get across there to get to that house out there, O'Brien Avenue, they're gonna have O'Brien Avenue loop out there.
they're not going to. The plan as presented to the planning board was that access to what used to be Pat Romprey's house would only be accessed from Luann Lane.
Yeah.
Which would then turn the corner and go down to Romprey's house.
Yeah.
And other buildings down there because it was a lot line adjustment and a subdivision.
But they're gonna be Luann land, not.
Yeah.
They're gonna be Luann Lane because they're not gonna be able to be accessed from O'Brien Ave.
Okay, that's what I was.
And in the new Mylar that's, I think's been recorded, it shows that O'Brien Avenue ends
Ends.
at that specific point. So anything going forward that pulls a permit will get a Luann Lane address is the only means to get to.
Yeah, but it's gonna leave Miles's house and garden lots, I believe.
Right,
There's nothing else that'll be
right.
O'Brien Avenue. It'll be Miles' house here and,
Okay.
well, his two garden lots,
Okay, the other one
ledges.
is, the other one's Maple Street, right?
Yeah.
With a
one
dead end,
month.
that's Maple Street. now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's, because that's got an apartment on the back and got 2 on the front, so.
4 meters on the side of the house.
Yeah, 2 don't work, don't worry.
Well, that O'Brien Avenue situation is gonna straighten itself out with this subdivision that,
Yeah, I should hope so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's, it's confusing now, and when somebody gets in there, they get all cranked up.
the other thing is gonna be, we can straighten it out. Google Maps might not erase the road that
Yeah.
loops around in there. It might be sending, like you said, if a tractor trailer truck goes
Well,
down
I
by
mean-
Miles's house.
There's a sign up there, dead end street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
By,
You don't
by the
see
time they
those.
read the sign, they're gonna have trouble backing
They
out.
send traffic from north, if you're coming southbound, they get you off 33 onto Connector Road and then send you down West Street to get to McDonald's.
Hmm.
Not even kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah,
all right,
go down West Street now.
yeah. Anything, any other public participation?
About that tank you talked about,
Yeah,
was the other developer supposed to put that tank in?
correct.
Okay, now, what happened to him?
He's the one who sold it. And he's the one
Okay,
who's,
but does that, I
he's-
mean, did he have anything in writing that he was gonna put a tank there?
no, he's suing the town saying he's not going to. This
Yeah,
is,
but
this
I
is why
mean-
we're in court.
He just said that in word that he's not gonna put the tank in now?
Oh, the
No.
new developer
I
is.
knew it, but how about the old guy? He gets away free and clear?
No, Yeah,
Well,
he passed
bought
on the
it.
obligation,
Right,
the obligation passes on to the new, like, if
Okay, so
I.
the other guy's gonna recognize that and he's gonna help you. with it.
Exactly, exactly.
Okay,
The
okay.
Yeah.
agreements go with the land.
right,
Right.
right.
Okay, I didn't realize.
And this
Yeah.
new owner's a super nice guy. He's really eager to work with the town, so it's refreshing.
Yeah.
And the good thing about him, he's not from Texas. He lives in town. He owns,
Yeah,
he owns a piece
house.
of property
Yeah.
in South Peak.
Right.
So he's not far away from Ron's pistol.
Nice.
Nice food for it.
Yeah.
All right, if there's nothing else, I have one personnel issue.
And I have personnel.
And you
issue.
have personnel that we'll talk about in non-public. With that being said, we're gonna be posting a meeting, but just so everybody knows, on Friday, what did we say, 10:30?
10:30.
10:30, yeah.
10:30 Friday here, specifically to talk about the agreement we're gonna be signing with the, or
Which
gonna
means
be
we'll
talking
start
about.
in public, but we'll go into non-public to negotiate the
Yeah,
agreement.
our attorney will be there, his attorney will be there.
But any votes taken
Will be
we
done
come
in
back
public.
out of non-public into the public meeting, so.
What about up on Forest Ridge? How they doing with that? Elliot, you still around?
He's still there. That has not been finished
It hasn't been finished yet?
to the point, I forget, was that left with, there was only a couple of like little things, right? And Ray was gonna just check on them and he was
Yeah,
gonna,
the as-bills have not been submitted yet for the pond.
but everything was done the way it was supposed to be. They just haven't submitted the plans. Is that correct? And then he was waiting for the planning board check off before he put in the guardrail
Right.
along the ponds, because we didn't want to do is dig up holes and put in a guardrail and then find out Ray Corver wanted something else changed, but that hasn't been the case, so.
So, or if he didn't do the pond as was designed, he'd have to take that all out. to
All out,
redo
right.
again. So,
So we're waiting for the as-bills and he'll put in the guardrail. But it's the ponds themselves,
Yeah, but did they ever raise those pipes? The big ones?
the two outflow pipes,
Yeah.
the big ones,
Yeah.
they only had to raise one of them.
Yeah.
And he
That been done?
did that, yeah.
I missed that.
He still needs the mortar in the headworks there,
right, that was on the list of.
Yeah. You just can't put the rocks back, you get a mortar in, and, he's got a punch list of things he needs to do. But the big one is, we do not have the as-built from Horizons, that hasn't been submitted yet. That's why nothing else has been done as far as the guardrail and everything, because without that,
Well, I mean, he had till November to finish that, and you give an extension. How long the extension did you give him?
that's the planning board.
No, but I mean, if they hadn't got the ad built, I mean, that should have been
I agree.
before they inspected.
When was he before the planning board? Was it the end of September? Or middle of September?
And then it was it was put out for a while.
Has he done the watering yet, do you know?
I don't think so.
I mean, basically the ponds are functioning, built and functioning as designed,
Had no rain all summer, they should have worked good.
and we're waiting for those couple little things.
Yeah.
But he hasn't got his bond money back, and we're holding a whole bond on this, so basically if he doesn't do it, we can,
How long you hold a bond?
till it's
Till
done,
work- till the work's done.
till it's done. So,
Well, how long are you gonna give them to finish it though? I mean, you said November 29th, that's supposed to be December. It was supposed to be done and you give them an extension. How long of an extension did you give them?
I don't remember.
But he's been, you know,
He's been
coming back to the
coming back
planning
before
board
the planning board,
with no updates,
well,
pretty much.
I mean, the last update was pretty positive, in my opinion, but it's a planning board thing.
No, I mean, what gets me that he's got 3 more foundations up there now, so he's opened up more area. If that lagoon, it's just about taking it, just about holding its own right now. I don't think it's holding its own, but let's say it's holding its own, then you're gonna put 3 more houses up there with parking lots and all that. I mean, that's gonna put more of a load on that system.
I don't deny that.
Well, I know, but I mean, that's what I thought they could take into consideration. I mean, they had to,
It was designed for that.
it was designed for those 3 other buildings too?
Everything that was approved up there to be built was incorporated into the design of that, those ponds and drainage and pipes and all of that. Yeah, he's not been able to do any further construction than what was approved as part of that drainage system. Yeah. All right, thank you. I'll make a motion to go into non-public, 2 personnel issues.
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.